California. Ganja farmer. Real ganja farmer, never be in a drought. Ganja farmer. High grade. Ganja farmer. 707. Ganja farmer. Real ganja farmer, never see no drought. I got clones rooting and seeds germinating.
I got organic soil and sun radiating.
I got smelly doja intoxicating.
I got sweat on my back from herb cultivating. Harvest is coming, I'm patiently waiting.
Finger hash trimming, we drying and hanging.
We got the fire, the buyers are waiting.
Drought season's over, there's no more complaining.
Ganja farmer.
In the soil.
Ganja farmer.
California.
Ganja farmer.
Real ganja farmer, never be in a drought.
Hey, welcome to the Farmer in the Sky Radio Hour, special Sensimilla Tips Magazine reunion and Green Merchant Day remembrance. For those of you who maybe aren't really familiar with either of those because you're lucky enough to be young, I'm going to tell you the story really quick. On 26 October 1989, the DEA, in an attempt to wipe out cannabis cultivation in the United States, conducted the first wave of raids in Operation Green Merchant. This was an attempt to destroy, as I said, cannabis cultivation in the United States. How they wanted to do it was they wanted to shut down Neville Schoenmaker's legendary seed bank. They wanted to shut down Sensimilla Tips magazine. They wanted to shut down High Times magazine, and they wanted to shut down the specialty grow shops. They raided and they seized the inventory and records of 63 grow shops in 48 states. They rounded up 200-plus people, including me, for 12,000-plus plants. They forced Neville out of business and on the run. They almost succeeded in shutting High Times down, and they did manage to push Tom Alexander to where he had no choice but to shut down Sensimilla Tips magazine. For those who don't realize the significance of that last bit, Tom Alexander's Sensimilla Tips magazine was the grower's internet before there was one. Sensimilla Tips was a hardcore grow magazine to a degree that High Times wasn't, even though they used many of the same writers. Now, I'm not putting High Times down. It had more non-grow stuff in it, is why I'm saying that. Now, the writers that they shared were George Cervantes, Ed Rosenthal, and The Farmer in the Sky. My guests and I will be discussing cannabiculture, past, present, and future. We're also going to look at Green Merchant a little. To my knowledge, this is the very first project ever, other than writing for the same magazines, in which George and Ed have participated together. I could be wrong about that. So, without further ado, I welcome all of these guys in alphabetical order, because when you've got this many truly, truly impressive guests, it's very, very hard to know who you would put in star billing, because they're all stars. Well, except me. Tom Alexander, the publisher of Sense Tips magazine. George Cervantes. Don't think I need to introduce him to anyone listening. Everyone knows who he is. The Farmer in the Sky, which was my more literate writing partner, Bill Lermer, and I. Steve Hager, who was the editor-in-chief of High Times magazine when Green Merchant went down. I think I already said him, but Ed Rosenthal, and we weren't able to find Chief Seven Turtles or the Bush Doctor. This is going to be a really good one. So, since I'm introducing them in alphabetical order, Tom Alexander, welcome to the Farmer in the Sky Radio Hour.
Thank you for having me on.
As you know, because I've told you, you are one of my heroes. And the reason is because back in the really dark days of the war on drugs, and even before that, you had the balls to go out there in front of the world and go, yeah, we grow cannabis here. Well, it was marijuana they were calling it, but we grow cannabis, and we're not going to stop. We're going to share the information, and we're going to go forth. I mean, you were so brave. You were on Geraldo. I mean, good Lord, that was some scary stuff. So, I guess what I want to do is start with what you're doing now and go from there.
Well, I'm basically semi-retired, but I got on this crew called the Three Amigos of Cannabis with Jeff Lowenfels, Jorge Cervantes, and me. where we talk at cannabis conferences and give presentations and have a panel discussion and educate and inform the attendees at certain conferences. And looking at possibly doing something with Sensimilla Tips. It's on Facebook right now, but somebody approached me with some money that wants to revitalize it, and I'm considering that. So we'll see. You know, print is going down the tubes. I mean, so many print magazines are going out of business because it's a dying medium. So it may be print, it may be online more than just Facebook. We'll see.
Well, that sounds really cool. Since retiring, well, since they pushed you out of business in Sensimilla Tips magazine and the grow shop that you had, what did you do next after that?
Well, a year before Green Merchant happened, I saw the handwriting on the wall, and so I started Growing Edge magazine, which had the same hard delivery of high-tech information. I would go to International Society of Horticulture Science conferences all over the world and visit farms in the different countries I went to. We just didn't mention cannabis or marijuana. We just delivered the high-tech information. Now, the DEA said that the tomatoes in the pictures really meant marijuana, and they just said I just sanitized. But, you know, a lot of readers were growing cannabis, but a lot of readers were growing vegetables too. Wow. So I did Growing Edge till 2009. Just the last week, I got my Freedom of Information Act. These motherfuckers in the DEA, 7 years ago, here I was, you know, I had nothing publishing-wise in marijuana. They were doing physical surveillance 7 years ago on my house, on my business, and they only released 2 of the files that they had on me. 9 other files I would have to pay $1,100 to get that information. Yeah. But they're thieves with badges, basically.
Oh, absolutely. And I hate to cut you off. Next, George, you're up next.
Hey, Michael, how you doing? Good to talk to you, Wolfie.
George, you are with Ed, the 2 most successful, in my opinion, educators about cannabiculture, and thanks to Tom, had a really good forum. Thanks to Steve and High Times, had a really good forum to present an incredible amount of useful information. So on behalf of all of the cannabiculturists who have benefited from everyone on Sensimilla Tips magazine, thank you. What have you been? I mean, you're all over. You're writing. You're on tours. You've got tell us what you're up to.
Well, first off, it's really cool that you got all of us together on this program. I really appreciate it, and kudos to you for doing it. It's a lot of work and forethought. Yeah. But my latest project has been the Cannabis Encyclopedia, and it's been out for a few months. It's 596 pages long, 8.5 by 11 format. So that's big, like a magazine. It's got 3 columns. It's got a couple 2,000 plus color images that are, really good ones. And it's all about cultivation and consumption. And the foreword was written by the president of Mexico, Vicente Fox.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's the one thing. And then I continue doing videos. I've got 130, 40 videos up on my YouTube channel. And that's gotten, way more than 10 million hits on the channel. And then I'm also doing classes with THC University. THCuniversity.org. And I'm doing their cultivation classes. And also advising Matt Jones, the founder. And then I continue with my website that's got many, many, many members. And I touch on social media. I don't really run it myself, but I answer questions there. Just do small talk. But I answer questions on my website mainly.
Okay, next up for introducing you is Bill Lermer, you, of course, and I were the farmer in the sky. We did quite a bit. Along the way, we managed to design the first 8-sided paraboloid hoods, a design that, even though it's usually used horizontally now, is still out there. We did a whole bunch of things thanks to Tom. What would you say that light has been the thing that you have, I love this pun, have particularly shone in?
Yeah, it's always been my passion. It's probably because I'm half Dutch. I've always been fascinated on lighting. Now, in the 80s, I didn't really know all this nearly as much as I do now. My main passion right now is ceramic metal halide, the 315. And I moved away from the 1,000 watters because it's kind of macho, and you get better distribution of light.
Okay. Let's sort of save that for the present. We're looking at the past a bit. You were one of the shops that got hit hard by Operation Green Merchant. They put you out of business, basically. You're back.
I was like Dunkirk. They never really finished the job. I survived just barely.
Okay, and you're still floating, as are we all. How about that? We survived the worst attack on this. The next person up, Mr. Hager. Hey, Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I'm delighted that you can be here.
Yeah, I feel bad. Everybody got whacked hard, but Operation Green Merchant was, the biggest thing that ever happened to me, because what it did was it gave me the total freedom to do whatever I wanted in the magazine, put anything I want on the cover. I had tons of ad pages that I could make up any ad I wanted. And when I arrived at High Times, it was a broken down shell of nothing. Nobody was there. Ed Rosenthal had been holding the whole scene together for years. Basically, people were buying it to read Ed's column, and that was about it. I mean, it was just a garbage magazine for a long time. They weren't putting anything into it at all, and it was all about hard drugs, mostly. So I just wanted to encourage people to grow marijuana. And Craig Capitas did a story in Regardes, a magazine in Washington, D.C., that included me into Neville. I went to go see Neville. I realized this was huge. I started organizing the first Cannabis Cup. And then Operation Green Merchant came down, and the publisher High Times immediately fled. Everybody thought they were going to jail. I thought they were coming to my house. I mean, I thought they were going to break in, arrest me, take me away. But in fact, what happened is a lot of the media kind of rallied around. I could have exploited it more if my company would have let me. I was invited on Crossfire on CNN. I had lots of media exposure. Yeah. And very little would they let me do. You know what I mean? So, which was bizarre to me. But High Times took off, and I started a hemp legalization group called the Freedom Fighters. Yeah. That was a kind of a fluke, too, because I created a humorous character called Ed Hassel to write a column called My America with a K, and he was a hippie fascist deadhead who thought UFOs were communicating with him, but he grew pot. You know what I mean? So I was kind of making fun of the deadhead grow scene in a way. Yeah. And but the audience loved Ed Hassel, and so I said, okay, Ed Hassel's going to start this organization called the Freedom Fighters. And a couple of years, we became the biggest legalization group.
Ed, let's go with you. You are, of the people here, the seniorest writer. Yours was about the third or fourth book on the scene. First was Bill Drake, and then the next one that I was aware of was the book that you and Mel Frank did. Since then, you've written how many books?
Oh, I don't know. A few. My last one was called Beyond Buds, which is about concentrates. It's my second book on concentrates. And right now, I'm working on another book on cultivation.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now, what are you making some appearances real soon?
Occasionally. I don't. I'm working on different projects. A lot of different projects, though.
I'm president of a company called Terpene Research Labs, and we're so it's sort of like being Dan Quayle. Like all his life, people said to Dan Quayle, "Listen, Dan, you're no rocket scientist," and it turned out he was, because he became the head of NASA.
That's cool. That's very cool.
So I'm running all these scientists who can do things that I wouldn't ever know how to do.
When we get
very
back,
convenient if you're a slacker.
So we're going to go to the break now, and I'm looking forward to being back with this crowd. We
ganja farmer in the soil, ganja farmer, California, ganja farmer, real ganja farmer, never be in a drought.
Farmer in the Sky here to tell you about a company that practices growing greener is growing wiser. Humboldt Nutrients practices fertilizer sustainability. All Humboldt Nutrients products are created here in the USA using only natural amino acids, which makes all their salt-based nutrients biodegradable, eco-friendly, and sustainable. They put more of what you're paying for in a bottle of Humboldt Nutrients, so you get more bang for the buck. Humboldt Nutrients works at offering the best values and being the most environmentally friendly and sustainable hydroponic and home gardening nutrient company in America. Please stop by your local hydro store or home gardening center and ask for Humboldt Nutrients by name. You can find the nearest place to get Humboldt Nutrients by calling 888-420-7770 or go to HumboldtNutrients.com. Nothing else is Humboldt Nutrients.
Get free shipping and a free pack of seeds only at SeedsHereNow.com. Spend over $150 and get a free 3-pack of seeds. Spend over $250 and you'll get a free 5-pack of seeds. Use offer code FARMERINTHESKY and get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com only carries the best American breeders like Exotic Genetics, GAS, Homegrown Natural Wonders, La Plata Labs, Loud, Mosca, Snow High, and of course, TH Seeds. We back each pack sold with our 100% guarantee and the best customer service in the industry. No more mailing a money order or waiting for an invoice. SeedsHereNow.com is the only seed broker with the ability to process your payment in real time on our website. This means you'll have your order within 2 to 4 days, not 2 to 4 weeks. And you'll get a tracking number. Come and give SeedsHereNow.com a try. That's SeedsHereNow.com. And don't forget to use offer code FARMERINTHESKY to get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com.
Here at Endomax, we want the world our kids and their kids grow up in to be as good as the one we had. Our lights give you all the light you need in the blend of colors that your plants evolved under and use far less electricity doing it. Endomax is located at 555 Alter Street, Broomfield, Colorado, Unit 10, 80020. To find the nearest place you can join the Endomax evolution, go to endomax.com. Endomax, full spectrum lighting for a brighter tomorrow.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Hydrologic Purification Systems, leader in water purification for hydroponics, recently launched a commercial line called HyperLogic. At 2,000 to 20,000 plus gallons per day with 80% recovery, HyperLogic is the most efficient water and energy-saving system available. HyperLogic systems are American-made, portable, and come with the best warranty and service in the industry. Find us at hyperlogic.com or call toll-free 1-888-426-5644.
Let's give thanks to the farmer.
For the backyard, homegrown, outdoor chronic.
Talked a little bit about the past. I'm going to continue with Ed right now. we've talked a little bit in the past or about the past, and we talked a little bit about we haven't really gone into what you're doing now. I know one of your projects is in Japan. Would you like to talk about that at all?
I haven't heard about a project of mine in Japan, but I am doing work in China, and I'm working with a pharmaceutical company there, and also with a company that's involved in cultivation of hemp.
Ah, well, cool.
Basically, 1,000-acre fields comprising 1,000 acres.
That's quite a healthy little number of plants. Have you? That's not really a big field. 1,000 acres is not really big. Maybe in the United States it might be, where they're growing 50 and 100 acres. But you go up to Canada, or you go over to Europe, then they're growing industrial hemp. China as well. Many places in China. Yeah.
The area that I'm working in Mongolia isn't particularly well known for its hemp.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I do need to go back to the past a little, because Green Merchant. What was your view on Green Merchant? What did it look like from where you stood?
Well, the product that I was providing was information, and unlike people who were providing tools, information is protected by the First Amendment. So the main effect it had on me was that stores that were carrying my books, such as grow stores and indoor garden shops, could no longer do it. So I had to find a new method of distribution, which was through bookstores and through book distribution. So that was the main effect upon me. Of course, it hurt the industry, so it hurt me. On the other hand, I think that part of the reason why growing marijuana is so popular is because of all the government repressive programs for 70 years often made it safer, or seemingly safer, for people to grow it, and certainly easier to get and higher quality to get than through purchase. So I guess to an extent that aided people wanting to grow, and people who wanted to grow, of course, would use books, hopefully, to find out how to do it.
Absolutely. Now, where do you see what's happening now? Do you see big changes in the technology and in techniques, or are we pretty much still where we were, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Well, the big change is that the old experiential farmers are gradually, not so gradually, being replaced by a more modern farmer who has actually been schooled in agriculture, perhaps, and perhaps is willing to accept new techniques faster than people who only have experiential experience. I mean, in other words, if you learn, like you can see, if you look at a garden and you see the garden, you can see when that person started growing. Because the 70s garden looks different than the 90s, and so on. So, and whenever they started, most farmers, many gardeners never change. They just stay the same way because it's been successful, and they're afraid that if they make a change, they'll have a failure or something like that. But new farmers, the people who are coming out now and actually working in industry, they have a different attitude because they've been schooled in a more scientific technique.
Okay, and I need to move on. I'm going to move, since I am in, let's see. Steve, it's your turn. Tell me what you see going on in cannabis now that seems different and it seems maybe better.
Well, I'm not a cultivator. you've got a panel of the greatest cultivators, cannabis cultivators in the world. I'm not a cultivator. I'm a journalist, and I ended up getting interested in ceremonies because I found, myself doing this massive ceremony, and I'm working on a book on the history of cannabis and religion, and this is my interest, and nobody else is chasing this except me and Chris Bennett, as far as I know, and everybody's after the money. I'm not chasing money. I'm not trying to make $1 million on anything. I'm interested in my little research on the history of cannabis because, when I first met Jack Herrera, we immediately got into a discussion about the history of cannabis as Soma, and the fact so many lies had been told about the cannabis inspired every major religion, and the fact that it's not protected as a religious sacrament is ridiculous. It is the most important religious sacrament in history. So it's the burning bush, and it's it's the holy anointing oil, and whatever religion you go to, I don't care. You're going to find cannabis there at the origins. So why it all got taken out, I don't know. But I'm trying to put cannabis back into religion, unify all religions, including the pagan religions, the Masons. Everything, to me, needs to be put into one thing where we can all pray, meditate, worship together. And there's one rule: don't hurt anybody. That's all the dogma you ever need to know. Don't hurt anybody. Everything else is cool. So this is my path. Someday, maybe 100 years from now, people will realize this stuff is important, But it just captured my imagination. I never expected to be where I am.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining, and I'm very happy with my life and where it's gone. Yeah. But I'm not connected to the business. I'm not making, billions of dollar deals and like these guys do. And, it's like, and this stuff's important. Cultivation's super important. Having good strains, super important. And the biggest change is the realization that we need the whole plant profile. That's the medicine. Right. This whole idea of single molecule medicine is out the window. It's failure. It's complete failure.
Absolutely. And Dr.
We have to return to the medicine plants, and cannabis is just one of them. So the medicine has to go back to the plants.
Do you know something about auras, plants having auras or magnetic fields? Because I seem to remember something a while back that you did.
Well, I believe that all life and all matter has telepathic components to it. So plants and animals, they have telepathies, and we don't understand how any of this stuff works. And if people try and tell you they do understand it, they're basically talking from out of their ass, because nobody knows how this stuff works. But we radiate energies on a telepathic plane. And one of the things about the whole 60s counterculture revolution was an awareness of telepathy, and the fact that you could stone people without them using cannabis. They could just pick it up telepathically. It was called a contact high. So we knew, this was real. That's, something that, the millennials are a whole new generation. They all look forward. They don't care what happened 40 years ago. They're not going to study history. They don't respect anything. They don't even want to look at black and white films. But here's the thing, man. It's like, we have to work with these millennials and try and, educate them, because we picked up a lot of wisdom. And they're not going to listen to us old gray hairs. But somehow we got to hand some of this wisdom down.
Yeah. Well, actually, I know that in growing, I'm seeing these kids give me enormous hope, because they are extraordinarily knowledgeable. They do, I could do it with wine before I got stupid. But they can sit there and smell it, taste it, and tell you what its ancestry is, and damn near where on the hill and where that hill was that it was growing on. Because I do want to get a little more about Sea of Green in here, what did it look like from where you were standing?
Well, I got a message from Super Sativa Seed Club after I did the story on Neville, the cover story. So I think the cover story in Neville was in 86. So actually, my Sea of Green story would have been 87 then. I'm not really sure. You'd have to look it up. But they said they wanted me to come. They were going to show me something that I'd never seen. And then I came there and they said, we were going to use Ed Rosenthal, but he wanted to charge us money. So we're going to give the story to you. So, and then they showed me an ebb and flow table. They showed me how they took clones and put them in rock wool, floured them immediately, and it made for a faster harvest than what Neville was doing. And Neville was, as far as I'd seen, everybody was just growing full plants, growing seed. I didn't know anybody who was sprouting clones. So to me, and I didn't know anybody, rock wool was a thing in Europe. So Neville was using rock wool, but nobody here that I knew used rock wool.
Right. Well, the guy, Greg, went from Seattle to Neville with Northern Lights and 11 other strains and Sea of Green. So, which was the single plant. It was a variation on what they were calling the plantlet method, plantlet, the perpetual harvest.
Super Sativa Seed Club didn't use the phrase Sea of Green. That came in about a year later that I first heard that term. But the whole technology, to me, they told me they got it from the agriculture industry in the Netherlands, and it was a very common thing used in vegetable agriculture, the flower clones, so it's nothing new, nothing unusual, but if that was the first time I saw it used for marijuana, for recreational use. So, and that cover that I did on them exploded. You know what I mean? Everybody stopped using seeds. They started to realize, this is way better. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people jumped in on it and started producing books, videos, and all that stuff to cash in on the whole thing too. So the technology spread very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, I'm going to. I still would like to get your view on Green Merchant, really, more than anything. As I said, 85 is when I first wrote about it, and as Ed pointed out, as you just pointed out, apparently it was used in Dutch agriculture, where it came to cannabiculture in terms of indoors under lights. So that I don't think anyone else can claim. But that's fine. That's my ego talking. What did you see from Sea of Green?
Excuse me. I would just like to say I don't know where Steve got that line, but I have never charged anybody ever to do a story. So that is just out of line.
No. I think it had to do with editing a book they wanted to release for them. Look, Ed, I'm not trying to give you any grief about anything.
Let's put it this way. You left a wrong impression. I never charged to do a story, and I never paid for a story. It's as simple as that.
That was not.
I would like that
not the hang-up. But you do know that you had a contact with those people before me.
Yeah, that's right. And they did not want me to do it unless I edited a book for them for free, and I refused to do that.
Exactly.
That's what I refused to do.
There was a money issue between you guys.
It wasn't a money issue. There wasn't a money issue because I would never even ever consider story for money, so there's no issue.
Right.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to bring it back.
Okay, it's as simple as that. I just want, as a reporter, I just want to make sure that my name stays, appropriate to my actions.
What do you see going on now that is different, that you like, that's a change in the technology?
Well, Wolfie, I'd like to speak to that one.
I'm sorry, Ed. I'm going to let George do this one. So, George, what do you see new in technology?
I see tons of stuff changing. First off, I see a lot of people moving outdoors because they're able to grow outdoors safely now. And within that, they have to learn a lot more about soils and weather and greenhouse technology. So those things are really big because it's just so much less expensive to grow outdoors or in a greenhouse. And then, they've got the light deprivation greenhouses where they blacken out the the greenhouse during the summer. Usually they just need to do it for one crop, but they can grow 3 crops with those light deprivation greenhouses. That's really a big thing. Beyond that, there's other agencies, control agencies that are coming online, like Clean Green, Chris Van Hook, who's a good friend of mine. Well, what he's doing is certifying, they can't use the word organic, but what they're doing is they're certifying farms or cannabis processes, everything, is to be clean green. So it's very similar to organic certification. And then I'm also seeing, we've had these, the county extension agents. Well, the county extension agents, they're about the best thing in government. I love those guys. They know about planting. They know about harvesting. They know all about agriculture and horticulture. I mean, these guys are great. They're well educated. But the cannabis growers don't have access to them. So there's a couple of people, a couple of women called Dirty Business Soil Consulting Analysts. And what they do is, well, number one, they've got degrees in agriculture, soil science. They both specialized in that. And they take over the place of the extension agent. Really cool. That's a big change in technology.
Outstanding. Ed, because I didn't get you a chance, what do you see new in technology that impresses you?
Genetics. All the genetic work that's going on now, so that you can tell males from females. You can tell certain traits in plants. So, for instance, let's say you have a bunch of seedlings. You could test them to see whether they have the traits that are desired.
Cool.
So you don't have to grow everything out. So I think that's pretty cool. And tissue culture is cool. And there are some totally new methods of cultivation and new technologies coming in that are based on science. And, so I think those are pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Bill Lermer, why don't you join us for this? What do you see that's new? Because lighting and other, what the Farmer in the Sky always did was find the new technology, find the new methods. That was pretty much innovation was the big thing. So, what do you see that's new now and on the horizon that's impressive by way of technology?
Well, I'm mainly into lighting. Now, I understand that there's more greenhouse use now because of the changing legal climate. But as far as the actual climate in northern latitudes, it's too cold to grow in a greenhouse unless you have some kind of artificial heating. And why have a heater if you can have a light source that provides light and simultaneously providing heat? So for many decades, 400-watt high-pressure sodium is used as supplemental lighting in greenhouses. But they're not as efficient as the full spectrum, because full spectrum simulates natural sunlight, and the plant doesn't have to work so hard to use the lighting. And the best full spectrum lighting, in my opinion, for HID is the ceramic metal halide. Now, if you go up to 315, it outperforms any 400-watt in terms of average intensities. It can be used in a greenhouse. It does have some infrared, not as much as sodium, about half that of sodium. But it has just enough infrared to do the functions that you need for infrared for, and heats it up a little bit, but not too much. So you have just a few lights in there in the wintertime, and during the overcast days, it gives light. During the cool days, it adds light and heat. So I see that 315 ceramic metal halide as the best full spectrum light. By having lower wattage, you have more points of light, more angles of light, and fewer shadows on leaf surfaces. So I would say either use 315s indoors if you're a home hobbyist, or if it's not convenient to grow out in a greenhouse. But if you have a greenhouse, use about half the number of lights and use the ceramics or the new LEDs.
Okay, well, with LEDs, one of the things that are being found is that chemically complex plants require full spectrum because there are other phytochemical reactions going on besides photosynthesis and besides morphogenic triggering. There are apparently a number of micro phytoreactions that are driven by other spectra of light.
Exactly, yeah. And like I would say most of the LEDs out there commercially are mostly red and blue. And it's better to have a full spectrum because each part of the spectrum has a function. And if you have the spectrums close together, they work synergistically and amplify each other.
Okay. Steve, is there something out there in grow technology you've seen that you just makes you go, wow?
Well, I'm not a cultivator. I did grow some indoor vegetables when I first came to High Times on a table, just so I could, see what the technologies were like. That was, interesting and fun, and I did it for a few months. But and I have tons of houseplants. Yeah. But for me, it's like the kids who ordered seeds from Neville. They run the scene now. That's all the big strains popped out accidentally from people just ordering random, strains, and it isn't like a lot of these strains were bred consciously, like Chem Dog and those those kinds of strains, Sour Diesel. It's just magic beans popped up. One guy got lucky, and you know what I mean. And then suddenly now those clones are everywhere around the world, and everybody's using that plant. So, these and a lot of these kids who were 18, 19, 20 years old back in the day when Neville first opened business, they got his seeds, they got a magic bean, now they're on top of the world. So, it's easy to get involved in this, and you don't have to be an expert breeder. You can just win the lottery,
Well, what I see happening is a lot of strains or a lot of polyhybrids that aren't true breeding strains, and then people call them phenotypes. But okay.
Oh yeah, all the genetics a lot of them are degraded. Like you go to Amsterdam and stuff, and people are played out. A lot of the shit is just played out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Tom, I haven't come to you in a while. You've been reporting on the scene and watching the scene for a very long time, as have the other gentlemen. What do you see in terms of technology that you go, oh my, about?
Well, it's not so much technology. It's the organic methods that people like Jeff Lowenfels and Elaine Ingham that have done scientific research on the soil food web and how the root systems interact with mycorrhizal fungi and the various the nutrients in the soil. So just the way, like Ed said, the scientific developments of understanding how plants utilize nutrients, how they utilize light, and things like that.
Yeah. And now there's the knowledge that has come, like what Jeff has brought in. I was fortunate enough to have him as a guest, but then the sound quality, we weren't able to run it. I'm going to get back with him and do it again. From the time that Jeff came out with soil, teeming with microbes, the advance in awareness of mycorrhizomes and such is amazing. What else do you see out there what do you see? Well, obviously, as George said, greenhouses. But what do you see? What else is there out there what do you see for the future? Where do you see it going? Like the consumer versus craft growers, for instance.
Well, I think unlike the homebrew beer industry, where people brew their own beer, which is a small segment, I think home growers are going to proliferate much more than home brewers, because there's something about growing your own bud and giving it to people and sharing it at parties that it's a lot like the craft beer micro home brew thing, but I think it's bigger, and it'll be a much bigger thing.
I agree with you completely. Have you noticed that people tend to get off best on what they've grown themselves?
No.
No? Okay, well, I've noticed that...
I've had some good stuff from a whole bunch of people that, equals whatever I grew.
Okay, because I've noticed that it sometimes seems like every grower thinks that what they grow... I mean, obviously, you're an exception, a rare exception, thinks that what they grow is best. And
everybody thinks that, but the reality is, in my opinion, that's not true. I agree with Steve Hager that plants have an energy, and we have an energy, and when we grow a plant, we put our energy into the plant.
Is there something that I haven't asked that you need to, that you'd like to say that I haven't asked about?
Well, you're going to get into the politics of the current situation later.
Well, why don't we do that now? Let's talk about the...
Well, I mean, it's obvious the momentum of legalization, whether it's medical or recreational adult use, is sweeping the country. But where we're going to be battling for years and maybe decades to come is going to be the local zoning and public nuisance laws, where the prohibitionists will still be able to block, the situation. Like down in Fresno, the city of Fresno and Fresno County, they got $1,000 a plant civil fine for growing. So some joker has 100 plants, he's facing a $100,000 fine, and if you don't pay it, they put a lien on your property. So these prohibitionists are finding ways to keep prohibition going, even though it's legal in the area. And so what we have to do is get people that'll run for local office, whether it's zoning commission, county commissioner, mayor, whatever. We got to find people, and we got to back them with money and our support to, block these prohibitionists. Now, some places like Arcata, California, Boulder, Colorado, Portland, Oregon, are starting cannabis enterprise zones and green light districts that are actually encouraging cannabis businesses to set up shop and have a concentration in an area of the city, because they realize how much money, how much jobs, how much economic development, how much tourism. I mean, you look at across the board, whether it's tourism, whether it's real estate, whether it's jobs. I mean, they're estimating when California legalizes it adult use recreationally, we're going to go from 120,000 jobs in the medical industry right now to over 1.3 million jobs in the cannabis and their associated industries. So for a local politician to run, they're going to have so many economic talking points and things to convince the voters to vote for them rather than the prohibitionists. And so that's where I see the politics going, because it's going to be a slam dunk in the next 2 to 4 years on the federal level, on the state level.
Yeah, I think we're safely past Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point. I'm going to now go to Kevin. Kevin, what do you see coming? Not what's there now, which is 315s. Do you see anything big? I mean, we already heard lights up, light depth greenhouses, which I agree is where it's going. Though I think we can get more than 3 crops a year if they'll give us canopy rather than plant count. I'm going to throw this out there for everyone, and hopefully all of you will give each other room to talk about this. What about the regulations that are coming with legal, and how social use seems to be affecting medical everywhere that it's coming?
Well, there was my friend composed the initial medical marijuana thing in Washington State in 1998. It was intended for one grower or one caregiver. But the politicians wanted to have something they could tax. So they said, well, we'll allow these dispensaries. Well, then they figured out that because it was a medical supply, they couldn't charge sales tax. And they thought, wow, we got to figure out some other way to tax it. They said, oh, let's do it 502, to get recreational. They said, well, if you like your medical marijuana, you can keep your medical marijuana. But they lied. And the recreational is not really a legalization, it's a cartel. And if you have to get a license, They have people who are grandfathered in, have special privileges. It's a quasi-monopoly, heavily taxed, heavily regulated. It's cronyism. And they should just, if they want to legalize, just repeal. And let the feds worry about it if they want to step in. But instead, they want the state governments are now becoming senior partners in these grow operations. So that's the big problem I see, is overtaxing and overregulating and having too many licensing requirements.
Okay. Gentlemen, that's still out there. Anyone else want to step up to that one?
Well, yeah.
Well, I like Colorado because they let people grow their own. And I think it's really important that the option is always there to make your own medicine, and not just cannabis. As soon as cannabis is legal, I'm all for getting opium poppies totally legal to grow. I'm all for getting coca bushes totally legal to grow. Anything else people want for medicine that's useful for medicine, you got to be able to grow that on your own, no questions asked. So once we get control of the medicinal plants, then we don't have to worry about the cartels, because they're going to do that anyway. All the major commodities are controlled by cartels. They will buy it up. They will control it. That's why we have to maintain personal grows.
Very good. I absolutely agree. I think that the fact that we have the ability to grow them for ourselves prevents the other side from putting our genie back in their bottle. Let me see. Steve, do you have any comment on what you see politically around cannabis?
Well, I think most people that are into cannabis and the industry and stuff like that are running away from the counterculture. They're running away from radical politics. They're running away from... They just want to be part of the system now. They just want to join the insider club and make their millions. And that's sad to me because, the cannabis should just be opening the doors to people's minds. We should be looking at what really happened in 9/11. We should be looking at how the central banks really work. We should be looking at why the 0.0001% has 99% of everything. Because people have to wake up that if we don't re-engineer this stuff, they're going to have armies of robot police and soldiers to take care of us soon, So we have a limited amount of time to try and turn the tide against fascism because it's coming, I would argue wake up.
I'd argue that it's already here per Benito Mussolini's definition. He said that another name for fascism was corporatocracy. That was
we have it disguised by a velvet glove. They have the steel hand already. They got drones everywhere. They can bomb anybody in 5 seconds. But Americans have the power to change this, but we have to unify and wake up and stop falling into this left-right dialectic that they've set up for us. And they divide us so that they can weaken us. The real enemy is the direction this country has been taking since World War II, since the CIA took over. And we need to roll this back.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So we're going to go to the break now, and I'm looking forward to being back with this crowd.
Ganja farmer. In the soil. Ganja farmer. California. Ganja farmer. Real ganja farmer never be in a drought.
Farmer in the Sky here to tell you about a company that practices growing greener is growing wiser. Humboldt Nutrients practices fertilizer sustainability. All Humboldt Nutrients products are created here in the USA using only natural amino acids, which makes all their salt-based nutrients biodegradable, eco-friendly, and sustainable. They put more of what you're paying for in a bottle of Humboldt Nutrients so you get more bang for the buck. Humboldt Nutrients works at offering the best values and being the most environmentally friendly and sustainable hydroponic and home gardening nutrient company in America. Please stop by your local hydro store or home gardening center and ask for Humboldt Nutrients by name. You can find the nearest place to get Humboldt Nutrients by calling 888-420-7770 or go to HumboldtNutrients.com. Nothing else is Humboldt Nutrients.
Get free shipping and a free pack of seeds only at SeedsHereNow.com. Spend over $150 and get a free 3-pack of seeds. Spend over $250 and you'll get a free 5-pack of seeds. Use offer code FARMERINTHESKY and get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com only carries the best American breeders like Exotic Genetics, GAS, Homegrown Natural Wonders, La Plata Labs, Loud, Mosca, Snow High, and of course, TH Seeds. We back each pack sold with our 100% guarantee and the best customer service in the industry. No more mailing a money order or waiting for an invoice. SeedsHereNow.com is the only seed broker with the ability to process your payment in real time on our website. This means you'll have your order within 2 to 4 days, not 2 to 4 weeks. And you'll get a tracking number. Come and give SeedsHereNow.com a try. That's SeedsHereNow.com. And don't forget to use offer code FARMERINTHESKY to get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com.
Here at Endomax, we want the world our kids and their kids grow up in to be as good as the one we had. Our lights give you all the light you need in the blend of colors that your plans evolved under and use far less electricity doing it. Endomax is located at 555 Alta Street, Broomfield, Colorado, Unit 10, 80020. To find the nearest place you can join the Endomax evolution, go to endomax.com. Endomax, full spectrum lighting for a brighter tomorrow.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Hydrologic Purification Systems, leader in water purification for hydroponics, recently launched a commercial line called HyperLogic. At 2,000 to 20,000 plus gallons per day with 80% recovery, HyperLogic is the most efficient water and energy-saving system available. HyperLogic systems are American-made, portable, and come with the best warranty and service in the industry. Find us at hyperlogic.com or call toll-free 1-888-426-5644.
Hello, my name is Sarah Batterby, and I'm the founding chair of the Portland chapter of Women Grow. You may have heard about the organization. It was created to connect, educate, and inspire the next generation of female cannabis entrepreneurs. And our Portland chapter is now the largest and most diverse professional cannabis networking group in Oregon. We've worked really hard to deliver interesting programming and great speakers to our group and create an environment that welcomes women and men from all corners of the emerging cannabis industry. It's an opportunity to connect with like-minded people, find a place for your skills in this exciting new marketplace, or meet new clients, partners, and employees for your existing business. Ultimately, our goal is to bring people together in the spirit of collaboration and curiosity that we believe will make Oregon the strongest cannabis market in the country. You can find us at www.womengrow.com or register for our next First Thursday event on Eventbrite.
Let's give thanks to the farmer
For the backyard, homegrown, outdoor chronic.
The high-grade weed from Northern California.
Deep in the mountains, and guess who's got it?
I'm going to go back to Ed. What do you think, because you are seeing it play out and you're a good observer of the scene, in California and Oregon and Washington, rather than in Colorado, there's this interplay going on. Do you see what's going on between social and medical as being deliberate, or do you see it just as being an accident that no one could foresee, or what do you think of it?
Well, first of all, in terms of Washington, one of the reasons why I opposed 502 is that there was no provision for medical, and the people who it was a very unfair kind of race of political campaign, because anybody who said, no to it, they were denounced either as profiteers or, some sort of, it was like a witch hunt against people who realized how bad 502 was. And then, but I think that in general, there's this problem that the state, I'm talking about the government has, in that on the one hand, usually they don't charge tax for medical, for medicine that's by prescription. And on the other hand, they're afraid that everybody's going to try and get a prescription, or at least chronic users, so that because of the price differential, like you have in Colorado, where off of the same product, off of the same cash register, one of them, if it's medical, it's one price, and it's a different price if it's recreational. And so it gives chronic users an incentive to become medical. The joke that I made in Colorado the night that it was legal, that the vote was that it's a miracle. Marijuana is a miracle cure. Like, for all these years I've been using it medically, and I'm cured. I don't need the medical anymore. So,
yeah.
But I will say this, that the big thing isn't medical versus non-medical. That's a side issue. The issue is, to what extent are, like, these heavy capitalists going to be able to control the legislation? For instance, in Ohio, where they're trying to put on the ballot monopolization of the industry by 8 companies, and they're trying to make it a constitutional amendment in the Ohio Constitution. So that's a thing. Then there's a thing like in California. Most of the initiatives are trying to preserve, like, craft kind of things, no more than an acre. Well, then at some point, that's no longer going to be operative. And how are these craft organizations that are no more than an acre going to be able to compete against organizations that, for instance, in New York, where they're planting a 26-acre plantation, right? So how are crafts going to be able to compete against that in terms of science? And what I mean by that is, you generate if you generate a certain amount of money, you can live really well. But when you're generating a larger amount of money, you can dedicate money into research and technology that you can't if you have small organizations. They just don't have the resources for a research budget. And so if California limits the size of the operations in the state, then what it's doing is pretty much thwarting technology. And if it does that, it's going to be left behind. So there are all these questions that are real ethical, societal, economic questions, and they're being solved in different ways in the different states.
Yeah, I would hope that what we're going to see is the formation of organizations like the Grange was during the Depression, where the little guys get together to do their supplies and marketing so that they can compete with the bigger people. If you get 10 people growing sizable things, then it gets a little easier to hold resources in common, like have a lab that's employed by all of you. That type of thing, I'm hoping. But yeah, I definitely agree. What we're seeing,
the kind of technology that I'm talking about, it's not like, okay, we'll get a lab and we can all do research. It's like genetic testing. Like 5 little guys or 100 little guys can't necessarily get together. This is a concerted research effort. It's no longer it's not the Wright brothers. It's no longer usually the home inventor. It's these research teams that are technical and dedicated. It's a different kind of science than the beginning of the 20th century, where where Madame Curie could do experiments like on a countertop lab. It's not like that. And for instance, I was just to see Steep Hill, and they have a long string genetic thing machine, and it costs millions of dollars. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars to lease on a monthly basis. You just aren't going to get that with small-scale farming. And I'm not opposed to small-scale farming.
Right.
I think that there's room. I look at the tomato model, and if you look at the tomato model, most tomatoes that are grown in the United States are grown by home growers. And then there are a lot of small farmers that grow them. There are some larger regional farmers that are growing them. There are international companies that are in the industry, and yet that small farmer can still earn a living from it. So I think that the big
but
thing
the tomatoes today are so shitty compared to 50 years ago. Tomatoes suck.
You know what, Steve? They are and they aren't. I could go into tomatoes. I could go into the whole economics of tomatoes. I don't want to do it, but what I'm saying is yes, but that makes room for the local farmer who can deliver a product which is very close to ripe. That's you're exactly right. So there's room for everybody in the industry. I think that what I'd like to see is the market unfettered. Just let it happen. Don't have a prescribed thing by the state saying what the economics of it should look like. Just as our economy, to some extent, it's what people want. It's what the trends are. Things develop. We don't know how. Who knew that this would look the way it does now 10 years ago? We have no idea what this is going to look like in 10 years. So that we shouldn't try to model for it in such a way that it's bound by regulations.
Okay. Now, do you see, or would you agree that absent a uniform testing protocol across the board, it's pretty much going to be impossible to know exactly where to start to do double-blind, peer-reviewed studies, because first you have to identify what entourages work for which clusters of people. That was for anyone that cares to touch it on laboratory testing, because Ed brought up a good point. How much regulation do we need?
Well, this is Jorge answering.
Very good.
One of the things that's keeping all of the financial institutions out is first the banking, but the other thing is there's a lack of studies. There's very little known about cannabis overall, and so we really have a lot more research to do. And as Ed pointed out, that research has got to be funded somewhere. And the guys that are going to be funding it are going to be the big guys that have the capital to do it. And for all we know, a good deal of this research could have been done already. They're just waiting for the market to change or the laws to change. But research what kinds about each and every cannabinoid, and also the terpenes that accompany it, and as well how to get the exact combination. Either by cultivating it or by mixing and matching later. But there's got to be some standards and regulations set up there. Breeding standards, varieties that adhere to specific parameters. That's super necessary, because right now, if you take Girl Scout cookies, for example, from one person and then look at one from another, they're not going to be exactly the same, or even some of them might not even be close. I remember examples of Big Bud being anywhere from 8% THC, this is some years ago, by one company, and as high as 17% by another company, and they both called it Big Bud. We need to sort that kind of stuff out. I'd like to see regulations there. But as far as all this local stuff, I don't think we need it.
Yeah, I agree on the local level where the prohibitionists are keeping us out. Now, you mentioned, actually, I think this one I want to throw out there as a question to everyone, but start with George when we come back on this question after I've asked, which is, what do you think would do you think that if we were able to identify specific cannabinoid terpenoid profiles, and I'm going to throw in that it's looking like thiols have a pretty significant role in all of this, particularly in terms of the nutrition that they're taking up, but given if we can come up with, say, 3 clusters of profiles for each medical condition, or for a lot of them, do you see that as being worth having some fairly strict state testing regulations?
Oh, yes, definitely. We've got to have consistency in the industry, just like they do in the tomato or the vegetable industry or the cut flower industry. If you've got a variety that's a sweet 100, it should adhere to specific genetic qualities, you know. Well, I guess tomatoes are a bad example because that's an inbreeding plant and cannabis is an outbreeder. And since like people, dogs, horses, all outbreeding, and that means it's relatively difficult to stabilize by most people. But there's several real good stable varieties around. But those are usually crossed with other varieties, and then the stable ones, not everybody has them. So I would love to see some kind of, like they have patented varieties. Except there's been so many varieties out there now that are so well known, and people have grown them so long. I'm not sure who would deserve the patent. But some kind of a regulation system's got to come around, just because otherwise we're going to get lost even more than we are now. Because right now there's probably 5,000 varieties, maybe more out there. That's a heck of a lot of different varieties of cannabis, and you can make them any day you want. You know, they're very easy. And as Ed also pointed out, a lot of them are not that well done.
Well, and they're not. Most of them are polyhybrids and therefore unstable, buku phenotypes, etc. He did point it out. I'm wondering here, with the genetics, are we maybe placing too much concern with the genetics and not enough with the profiles? Because, as you said, different growers, different conditions, same genetics can produce different light, different phytochemical reactions in response to that. Shouldn't we be more going to profiles so that the patient or social user can consistently get what they're looking for without it having to be big companies producing it?
Sure. Just like you said, the profile is really important, in having several clusters of profiles that work for specific ailments in general. You know, that makes a lot of sense. But as far as getting people just to grow better cannabis, one of the things I'd like to bring up, it's a little beyond genetic. Well, it's not really genetic so much as it is the products that they use on the plants. As this industry grew so quickly, there was too much money in the marketplace because growers had too much money, so they were able to. They pretty much purchased anything you told them to, and they did a lot of experimenting, which was really great too. But one of the things that happened is that they started putting a lot of products on the plants that are unnecessary, and then they expect really quick results. Well, what we've seen with that is they're using systemic products on their plants, and that's not at all healthy. And I'd like to see a lot more information out about that and some regulations on that, because that's a health issue.
Along that line, I'm in the process of putting together a story. There is a company that is currently selling lead acetate as a hardener for buds. And
No.
Yes. And I'm thinking that it may end up being the first cannabis-related Pulitzer, because that's killing people. That's using a deadly poison that's known as a carcinogen. There's not even any question whatsoever, you know? Not to mention being a heavy metal.
That's hard to believe. It's just lead acetate. That's just horrible.
Yeah. I mean, there is greed running things in a lot of places. Okay, when I'm going to go back to the politics again. Anyone, George or Ed, you talked about opposing 502, and that one of the reasons you opposed it was the lack of provisions for medical. Now, Oregon tried to learn from that. In our law, it said 3 different places that this new legalization wouldn't touch medical. You know what happened, I'm sure.
First of all, in Washington, it was inevitable that that was going to happen. That was one of the goals of the the state alcohol board. So, also from the very beginning, everything was rigged. EGRET Partners, I was part of EGRET Partners, which was going to write the regulations, and we came in second because they didn't like the people who were in EGRET Partners, and instead they got Kleinman, who was he's a walking disaster. So,
well, that and the lobby
it's a good thing that he doesn't need reasoning to walk, because if he did, he wouldn't be. He'd trip over his feet every step. So, so the thing about doing it in Oregon, I think in Oregon there is eventually going to work out that there is a 2-tier system, the way that there is in Colorado. And on the other hand, a lot of the medicines that we use, we find on a non-prescription shelf, and that they are taxed, even though they're medicines. There are all kinds. When you go to a drugstore, there are shelves and shelves of medications that are on prescription.
Right, over the counters.
What? Over the counter medicines, and certainly if parts of cannabis are over the counter medicines, then they would be taxed. People haven't thought of it that way.
Actually, I've heard it proposed that in order to stay compliant with the United Nations Treaty, that what we need to do is create a Class 5, a Schedule 5, and move all over-the-counters, including cannabis, into it. Then it's classified, it's on a schedule, it's controlled, and
that's
it's available.
Class 3.
Say again?
That's a class, over the shelf.
No,
off the shelf is Class 3.
Everything down to 5 nationally requires a prescription.
No, it doesn't. No, I'm sorry. Well, whatever number it is, I'm not going to argue about numbers. These numbers, but basically, you could go in and buy something for fungal relief, or nail relief, or for a cold or something, and these are all non-prescription medicines, and they are taxed just like any other commodity is. So the number of medicines made from marijuana that would be specifically for medical use would be very limited. Medical use that's prescription, for instance, for anti-carcinogens, things like that are these very potent medicines, or that are manufactured using arduous techniques. Those might be by prescription.
Yeah. Well, it will be interesting to see how that one goes. I know that I'll throw this out. Are there any parts of this description of the future that anyone who's here on this panel is going to sees it as being, maybe I'm being excessively bleak, maybe they see something from a different point, and I would love to hear it. I see it going to all of those e-pens for mass consumers and beautifully hand manicured, gorgeous ganja flowers in bud shops that are like the wine shops, in tasting rooms like we see in wine in vineyards, and possibly brew pub type things.
Well, I think one of the opportunities is like a brew pub. You should be able to smoke in a restaurant or bar environment. And I think that's now illegal, I think, in most places in the United States. And why should people be allowed to drink liquor in a restaurant, but not, they can't? But they can't smoke pot socially. There should be pot bars where you can smoke pot, and everybody agrees to it. That's what I think is for the new thing that could happen.
We are seeing some of that, although it's still like a bottle club where you have to bring your own. We're seeing that in Portland, I know, and I heard they're getting ready.
I think the users in the community should band together and purchase the churches that are no longer being used. You can buy a church in some places for $2,000. With stained glass windows. No one wants them. And then you should turn these churches into community places where cannabis users can share cannabis together. Because we need to reform the whole idea of religion, bring it up to speed, and bring cannabis back into religion. And this whole thing about all studying the terpenes and all the different, factors involved, I'm just looking for great taste. Whoever delivers to me the greatest tasting, and it's easy to know which one tastes the best, is you can, decide in seconds. That's what I'm looking for, the one that tastes the best.
Right, and I'm, talking more about how we find medical uses and really social uses so people can repeat their experience when they go from one place to another.
Yeah, I'm all for studying the cancer effects, finding the best medicine, all that stuff. But I'm just saying, for me personally, it's always been about taste. It's always been about taste.
I like the streamers. Anyone else want to talk about that vision, or maybe talk about what their vision of where social, what form it's going to take?
Well, the regulations. I'm like everybody else. I'm for the less regulations as possible. But the reality is we're going to delay legalization if there aren't regulations attached to it. It's just what sells. I mean, unfortunately, the vast majority of society aren't like us and that are logical and rational and reasonable. They want regulations and they want taxes. I mean, it should be like a tomato. We should be able to do it just like a tomato or a lettuce. It's a piece of produce.
Well, it's a piece of produce. I kind of like the alcohol model. It's, as because we've got industrial uses, we've got home brewers, we've got distilleries in the extractors, we've got the brewers and the vintners in the dispensaries or more in the growers. It just seems so
well, that's
logical.
for the medicinal use and the recreational use, but there's industrial use as well. And like tomatoes, it should be grown.
So it should go even there. How is it taxed? How are raw materials taxed when it's used for industrial raw material? Why do we have Jim Crow laws?
I mean the reality was Mississippi just legalized alcohol like a few years ago. So, I mean, like I said earlier, we're going to be battling local prohibitionists for decades. And the only way the voters in the states with initiatives will pass something is if it has regulations and taxes. Unfortunately, I don't agree with it, but that's the only way that it's going to happen. And so I accept it for now, but, you know, hopefully we'll work on it so that it's not that way.
Yeah, I sure hope so, but we had taxes. We had it structured in Measure 91 beautifully, and they just totally went, oh, no, it doesn't mean what it says. That just means you want a law.
That was the first initiative passed by the voters in the history of Oregon that the legislature changed the implications of the measure passed by the voters. First time in history of Oregon.
Yep, and it's worth noting that Privateer, an extraordinarily wealthy holding company, had talks with the members of the committee to implement Measure 91, but instead they changed a bunch of rules on OMMA. But you know, it's really hard not to see there being that fight and trying to figure out a way to fix it, because we're nowhere near over the finish line. What do we do? How do we do that?
Boy, I don't know. That's a tough one. What I'm seeing is as soon as these government people figure out that there's a real good tax revenue in this, they're going to do their best to control it. But at the same time, when they try to control it like that and keep the price high, it's going to promote a black market. So it's going to be a tough issue. It's going to be a very tough issue.
So we're going to go to the break now, and I'm looking forward to being back with this crowd.
Ganja farmer in the soil. Ganja farmer, California. Ganja farmer, real ganja farmer, never be in a drought.
Farmer in the Sky here to tell you about a company that practices growing greener is growing wiser. Humboldt Nutrients practices fertilizer sustainability. All Humboldt Nutrients products are created here in the USA using only natural amino acids, which makes all their salt-based nutrients biodegradable, eco-friendly, and sustainable. They put more of what you're paying for in a bottle of Humboldt Nutrients so you get more bang for the buck. Humboldt Nutrients works at offering the best values and being the most environmentally friendly and sustainable hydroponic and home gardening nutrient company in America. Please stop by your local hydro store or home gardening center and ask for Humboldt Nutrients by name. You can find the nearest place to get Humboldt Nutrients by calling 888-420-7770 or go to HumboldtNutrients.com. Nothing else is Humboldt Nutrients.
Get free shipping and a free pack of seeds only at SeedsHereNow.com. Spend over $150 and get a free 3-pack of seeds. Spend over $250 and you'll get a free 5-pack of seeds. Use offer code FARMERINTHESKY and get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com only carries the best American breeders like Exotic Genetics, GAS, Homegrown Natural Wonders, La Plata Labs, Loud, Mosca, Snow High, and of course, TH Seeds. We back each pack sold with our 100% guarantee and the best customer service in the industry. No more mailing a money order or waiting for an invoice. SeedsHereNow.com is the only seed broker with the ability to process your payment in real time on our website. This means you'll have your order within 2 to 4 days, not 2 to 4 weeks. And you'll get a tracking number. Come and give SeedsHereNow.com a try. That's SeedsHereNow.com. And don't forget to use offer code FARMERINTHESKY to get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com.
Here at Endomax, we want the world our kids and their kids grow up in to be as good as the one we had. Our lights give you all the light you need in the blend of colors that your plants evolved under and use far less electricity doing it. Endomax is located at 555 Alta Street, Broomfield, Colorado, Unit 10, 80020. To find the nearest place you can join the Endomax evolution, go to Endomax.com. Endomax, full spectrum lighting for a brighter tomorrow.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Hydrologic Purification Systems, leader in water purification for hydroponics, recently launched a commercial line called HyperLogic. At 2,000 to 20,000 plus gallons per day with 80% recovery, HyperLogic is the most efficient water and energy-saving system available. HyperLogic systems are American-made, portable, and come with the best warranty and service in the industry. Find us at hyperlogic.com or call toll-free 1-888-426-5644.
Let's give thanks to the farmer.
For the backyard homegrown out.
I'm going to ask anyone here, to play devil's advocate for a minute. Why, if all of these various states that have medical or have had medical that haven't gotten a lot of federal raids in the decades, in some cases, that they've had medical programs that even since the Cole memorandum that didn't get raided, so they must have been in compliance with Cole. Why is it all of a sudden that we need these other things?
Well, the economy is collapsing, and the government doesn't have enough money, and they're desperate for revenue sources. And if the taxes are too high, you're just going to have a continuation of a black market. And they dropped the taxes here in Washington State in response to that, because the original recreational prices were just too high. So they've come down a little bit, but it's still a little bit high. And then they put the taxes at the back end, so that the consumer supposedly doesn't pay for it as a sales tax. That's how they get around this prohibition, because the medical recommendations are considered the equivalent to a prescription. So that's why the dispensaries most of them don't charge sales tax. But now they say, well, they find other ways to tax it besides a sales tax. They get around that.
Yeah. Well, I know that in Oregon, our social use users are good until the 31st of December, and then they get taxed. So, and that wasn't how it was. And Measure 91 said specifically, I mean, it wasn't, at all ambiguous. That it was shall, which is mandatory rather than permissive, which is may language. It was shall, and it said shall not in any way affect the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act.
Well, it'll just spur new initiatives that deal directly with medical marijuana. There'll be new initiatives that spell out more specifically what medical cannabis is and how it should be handled.
We had that. Except for our growers, we had that in the medical program. Oregon's was...
Yeah, but they will, in the future, they will reappear on the ballot to bring back medical cannabis to the way it should be.
Got it.
We hope. Yeah.
Jeff Steinborn and his partner are spearheading those efforts here in Seattle.
To restore patient rights?
Right.
Very good.
I think is his name also. They're working in that stuff. And Steve Sarich also is working in this. So I agree with everything Ed Russell said about 502. It was a Trojan horse to destroy medical cannabis and to absorb it into the highly taxed recreational thing, which they reduced the tax, but it's still too high.
Well, and
one good thing about the California laws that were just signed by Jerry Brown last week, you don't have to get into this regulatory scheme until you start growing for more than 5 patients. So 5 patients, you can grow 6 plants per 5 patients. So people can grow 30 plants in the medical cannabis program in California that'll be implemented in 2018 and 3 more years. And you can grow 30 plants for 5 patients without getting into the regulation.
Really? Well, that's kind of cool. But don't they limit size to 100 square feet?
Ed or George, what are you?
Well, here in county by county here in California, in Sonoma County, where I'm at right now, which is just north of San Francisco, the thing is you can grow up to 99 plants, but you get 100 square feet per card holder that you're growing for, right? So, right. That really does limit things. But it's really funny how much you can grow in 100 square feet, especially if you have 3 crops a year.
Oh, absolutely, or more. And I mean, there's no doubt you can, if you want to do the giant thing, which outdoors there's no sense not doing it. You know, those 10-pound plants. If you can do those, then you're still, again, you get a few of you together and you're competitive with the big people.
Well, that's right. In fact, when I was up in Oregon, I stopped to see our old friend Paul Stanford, and he had some very big plants for that climate. They look great.
And of course, the trick to that is you start them early and you move them out.
That's right. Keep them warm early on in the year and full sun all day long and excellent organic soil with plenty of mycorrhizal fungi.
You got it. The magic recipe. And again, I'm going to throw a statement out there and see if anyone has comment on it, since this seems to be working pretty well. All of the differing techniques and technologies are all about how to do something very specific that indoors, outdoors, or greenhouse we're all trying to do, which is to provide the conditions that allow us to use as much of the light that we're giving them as possible.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, what do we want to do? We want to give them full sun and keep them relatively cool during the middle of the day. The plants quit growing when it's more than 85 degrees. They just slow to a crawl. So then it's important to shade them. But growing in the backyard or growing, even in a relatively large greenhouse is pretty darn easy. All you've got to do is pay attention. It's a bit of work, but not bad.
Yeah, I mean, considering what comes back, it's amazing. This is the true alchemy. We take dirt or water. Oh, there's a good one. We take dirt or water and mineral salts or organic matter and sunlight, and we make green gold out of it. That seems like alchemy to me.
It is a miracle. It's definitely a miracle.
And as we passed it by, hydroponic, hydro-organic, soilless. Favorites, guys, and why?
Well, I'm an organic guy, 100%. I love organics. It just works for me. I've been an organic grower exclusively for the last, 10 years. And I've played with other things, but I just don't like it so well. Organic growing is once you get your soil developed, it takes 2-3 years really. You just don't have to work very hard. Feed the soil a little bit, and it holds more moisture. The nutrients are readily available, And, you put the mulch on top of the soil that creates a great climate for the soil. And just plenty of water and full sun. That's really all it takes when you're growing organically. Of course, you've got to have a fairly good knowledge of organics and whatnot. But with soil testing, that's not all that difficult.
Well, and because organic or biodynamic has come to encompass a number of things. Hydroorganics, the use of organics in hydroponics, aquaponics, the fish thing is getting more and more common. Do you prefer would you recommend any of those over any of the others? And of course, soil organics, and the whole mycorrhizal net, which we're not getting in hydroponics. What?
So true. Well, I would love to hear what Tom Alexander has to say about that too, as well.
Well, I think the no-till, even in hydroculture or hydroponics, is because it forms a web of mycelium and microbes, and so it's the same as in the soil. You want to keep it so that you don't disturb it. Is that what you were asking?
Well, that was part of it, but also, do we get any kind of mycelium net from that? And if not, what replaces it in bringing nutrients in? I know that you and Jeff Lowenfels are close, and I know he knows an incredible amount about that. So that's why I'm asking that.
Most of his writings are for soil-based plants.
Yeah, right.
And obviously there's no nematodes and things that are in the soil when you're growing hydroponics or in aquaponics.
Right.
But the biofilms and things form on the roots just like in soil. So, you want to cultivate and encourage that type of growth in hydroponics and aquaponics. And, you got to investigate and research what nutrients and what additives or things you got to encourage that development. Like with when you're growing fish and plants, the fish provide a lot of with their waste, a lot of the not only nutrients, but the microorganisms that colonize in the root systems. If you're just doing hydroponics, a lot of people are putting compost tea brewers right into the nutrient tank and brewing right in the tank, and that is adding the microorganisms to the nutrient tank, and then they colonize in the root system.
Okay, so they don't really care how wet it is. They're at a small enough size that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, one planting tip from each of you that if you were only going to tell someone one thing about growing, what would it be?
For me, it would be plant early. Plant early, plant often.
I like it.
Well, I live in Sacramento area where we had a week of 108-degree temperatures, and it destroyed, not to the point of plants dying, but really lush green plants just stopped growing, and the leaves just turned yellow. And I would estimate that it probably, did 60% less of product when they were harvested. So somehow get it so your root systems don't, especially in containers, don't get into the 108 to 120 degree range because it fries the roots.
How do you feel then? One thing I've seen people doing is the big pots, the big big cloth pots,
Right.
but set into the dirt somewhat so that they have that cooler, deeper dirt as a reservoir.
Yeah, that makes sense. That, you learn from your failures.
Oh, hell yes. I sometimes call myself a black thumb grower. I've had every catastrophe you can have happen, and I've had to learn how to deal with all of them. And so I get to share that. Next, let's see. Again, what one thing, Kevin?
Yeah,
one thing about growing that it would be the one thing that you wouldn't want to miss sharing.
Well, the biggest problem indoor is the high temperatures. So the idea is to keep your energy, your light efficient, to have smaller wattage lights, to have them full spectrum. And if you want to move into a greenhouse, just use about half the number in the northern latitudes. You still need, a little bit of heat from the lights, and you do need some light because the natural sunlight is dim. It's too dim. But as far back to the other thing is, my favorite is cocoa. It's kind of a compromise between hydroponics and soil. So you get kind of the best benefits of both.
Okay.
Straight cocoa, all the organics you could add in a water-soluble form. And because it's an organic environment, all the organic processes work better. But it's better aerated than soil. So you could, instead of putting your organic materials as a humus or as a solid thing that takes up aeration, add it in a water-soluble form, and you use your cocoa it's better aerated than the soil. Not as aerated as hydroponics, but it's still better aerated than soil. And you get all the benefits from soil if you add your stuff in a water-soluble form.
Steve, as you said, you're not a grower, but...
my advice is get a good clone, something really special. Start with some good genetics. And if you really are careful, grow organically in soil is my recommendation. Learn to get a sense of your plant, what it likes, what it doesn't like. Get in communication with it as much as possible. But without that really good genetics to start with, you're going to be limited.
Okay, great. Let's see. I've done Steve. Is there anyone I missed? I'm old.
Ed Rosenthal.
Ed?
Yes. Well, I thought that Steve's remarks were really good because the one thing that you can do best is get the best genetics and that you can. And even if the plant doesn't reach the potential, at least it's starting out with excellent genetics, so it has a better chance of being decent. So then the second thing that I would say is don't be overly ambitious and try to do more than you can really do well. It's better to do a limited amount well than a big amount poorly.
I want to thank you guys immensely. You have, I hope, some idea how much I appreciate this. It's huge to me. So thank you again.
Hey, I had a great time. Thanks for inviting me on the show. Can I give a plug to my latest book?
You certainly can. I should have let you
It's the 150th anniversary of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I spent 11 months researching the case, and I cracked it wide open. And my book's out. You can get it in paperback or in ebook form. It's called Killing Lincoln, The Real Story. And a lot of our problems actually started with the Civil War. That's when we instituted the national currency, when the banks took over. So you learn a lot about our hidden history. Check the book out. So I encourage people to read it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else got... I would love to have you say something if there was something you wanted to say that we've missed.
Sure. This is Jorge and Wolf. I'd like to say thank you so much for getting this all together. This is really a good deal, and I had a great time. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to a future.
I'm looking forward to it too. We're going to have fun with it. Kevin, anyone?
Well, thank you for this, bringing us all together here. We went through some really hard times. Things are improving in many areas. So let's keep on trying to work together and,
Tom, did we hear, did you have a close yet?
I lived in Oregon for 36 years, and I'll be going back home to celebrate adult use, recreational, legal, and see a lot of my friends that live in Oregon. And,
Cool.
And then on Facebook, go to Sensimia Tips Magazine and join the party there.
Outstanding. Ed, please, come in.
Yes, this was really great. I think it's good to see that nobody's really totally retired, that people are still working. And we're going to see tremendous progress beyond anything that we believe would happen. Stay alive.
It's been pretty amazing. Thank you. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Love each other and grow wiser.
High-grade weed from Northern California.
Deep in the mountains, and guess who's got it? The Ganja Farm. In the soil.
Ganja Farm.
California.
Ganja Farm.
Real Ganja Farmer never be in a drought.
Farmer in the Sky here to tell you about a company that practices growing greener is growing wiser. Humboldt Nutrients practices fertilizer sustainability. All Humboldt Nutrients products are created here in the USA using only natural amino acids, which makes all their salt-based nutrients biodegradable, eco-friendly, and sustainable. They put more of what you're paying for in a bottle of Humboldt Nutrients so you get more bang for the buck. Humboldt Nutrients works at offering the best values and being the most environmentally friendly and sustainable hydroponic and home gardening nutrient company in America. Please stop by your local hydro store or home gardening center and ask for Humboldt Nutrients by name. You can find the nearest place to get Humboldt Nutrients by calling 888-420-7770 or go to HumboldtNutrients.com. Nothing else is Humboldt Nutrients.
Get free shipping and a free pack of seeds only at SeedsHereNow.com. Spend over $150 and get a free 3-pack of seeds. Spend over $250 and you'll get a free 5-pack of seeds. Use offer code FARMER in the Sky and get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com only carries the best American breeders like Exotic Genetics, GAS, Homegrown Natural Wonders, La Plata Labs, Loud, Mosca, Snow High, and of course, TH Seeds. We back each pack sold with our 100% guarantee and the best customer service in the industry. No more mailing a money order or waiting for an invoice. SeedsHereNow.com is the only seed broker with the ability to process your payment in real time on our website. This means you'll have your order within 2 to 4 days, not 2 to 4 weeks. And you'll get a tracking number. Come and give SeedsHereNow.com a try. That's SeedsHereNow.com. And don't forget to use offer code FARMER in the Sky to get free shipping on all orders. SeedsHereNow.com.
Here at Endomax, we want the world our kids and their kids grow up in to be as good as the one we had. Our lights give you all the light you need in the blend of colors that your plants evolved under and use far less electricity doing it. Endomax is located at 555 Alter Street, Broomfield, Colorado, Unit 10, 80020. To find the nearest place you can join the Endomax evolution, go to endomax.com. Endomax, full spectrum lighting for a brighter tomorrow.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Hydrologic Purification Systems, leader in water purification for hydroponics, recently launched a commercial line called HyperLogic. At 2,000 to 20,000 plus gallons per day with 80% recovery, HyperLogic is the most efficient water and energy-saving system available. HyperLogic systems are American-made, portable, and come with the best warranty and service in the industry. Find us at hyperlogic.com or call toll-free 1-888-426-5644.
let's give thanks to the farmer.
For the backyard, homegrown, outdoor chronic.
The high-grade weed from Northern California.
Deep in the mountains, and guess who's got it?
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio.
Since 1990, over 9 million people have broken the rules and got arrested for pot. That's more than the population combined from Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, and even Vermont. Man, that sure seems like a lot. 2005, over 750 million American citizens got busted with weed. What burns holes in my tent is 86% were arrested for possession. But what I can't believe is one of those people was me. So what can we do about legalization but rally around and reform legislation that state our position and make it our mission? A change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Chief Greenbud is spouting about prison overcrowding, using words like reform, rally, and change. Why should we do time for a victimless crime? Marijuana isn't evil, but it's taking the blame. Don't you think that it's time for a change? So what can we do about legalization but rally around and reform legislation that state our position and make it our mission? A change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Let's make it our mission, state our position. Change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Yeah, it's time we legalize weed.